welcome or welcome back to my channel. So it's time for another recent reads. I have 3 books this time, and yeah, you know what, I'm gonna say all of these 3 books I want to talk about are really short books, 200 pages or less. So I suppose all of these books could count into Shorty September. Yeah, and also in terms of how I found this book, I think this video is going to be kind of diverse because I disliked some of them and I loved some of them. So you're gonna get a mix of emotions in this book, in this video. Anyway, I'm gonna start with the first book, and that would be a book called Agatha by Cathrine Bomann. Translated from the Danish into the English by Waight. So this book is about a psychiatrist in 1940s Paris. So this psychiatrist is a 70-ish year old man, and he's about to retire. And so basically he's counting like how many sessions he still has before his retirement, and he's looking forward to that retirement because from the beginning we learned that he doesn't actually really enjoy his job or his life. Everything just feels so robotic to him. Everything is dull and drab, and he's just waiting for that time for him to retire. So yeah, we have this psychiatrist who is about to retire, but then one day he receives a request from a new client named Agatha. And at first he's kind of hesitant in accepting this new client because seeing her mental health history, he thinks that Agatha would probably need more time in therapy in order to receive a good treatment, and he only has like a few months left to his practice, right? And so he initially declines this client, but then Agatha is so insistent on seeing him that eventually Agatha becomes his client. And this is the kind of book that would say, this is the encounter that would change the life of the main character, which is the psychiatrist. You know those kinds of books that that sort of offers you a kind of story in which the character's life is changed by a particular encounter. This is like one of those kinds of books, and I really dislike this one. Unfortunately, something about this book, quite a few things about this book didn't really agree with me. First of all, what made this book intriguing to me initially was that this book deals with mental health and mental illness, and you have a psychiatrist, and you have someone who seeks psychological treatment to address her issues. You know what? Those things sound really general, but they sound interesting. I like stories like that. However, this book is also written in that kind of cutesy, whimsical prose that I feel like, the kind of prose that you see a lot out there, in which they have the story where the protagonist is like having some kind of issues, right? And then something sort of sweet or nice happen in their life, and then things become better for them. Those kinds of stories. This is like one of those kinds of stories, and I find that to be kind of grating because because it's mental health and mental illness, and these things are complicated. I find it sort of annoying to read a story that deals with severe mental illness, or even things such as grief or trauma in a whimsical way, and shows us as if these issues are easily solvable by just talking to someone or trying something new, and doing something out of the ordinary. This is that kind of book. And it didn't dissect the issues of mental health really well. It just it glosses over a lot of details, the complex side of mental health and mental health treatment. It simplifies things, and that's the part that I just didn't like about this book. Now, another issue is the characters. How the characters sort of behave in this book, how they are written. Okay, first of all, how they are written. They are written very thinly. Now, the story itself is already quite thin. But the characters themselves are also kind of thin. The psychiatrist, we know that he is bored with his life. He wants to retire. Everything is great to him. And then we have this character, Agatha, who insists on becoming his client. Now, this book shows us, it's as if there is a reason why Agatha is so insistent on asking to be his client. However, if you want to find out why, you're going to be kind of disappointed because it is not really explored. And I find it really strange why this book introduced this character Agatha in that way. Why she has this particular characterization. Why does she really want to see this nameless psychiatrist? Now, I just don't really understand. What is so interesting about her or the psychiatrist that she really wants to see him? Okay. And as for the psychiatrist, the only thing we know about him that is that matters to the story is basically what I just said just now. How his attitude towards his life, his loneliness, his lack of excitement. However, now let me just say these things are addressed eventually in the book, but I don't like how it is addressed because. And I'm going to say this with a little bit of disclaimer. I don't know the history of ethics in psychotherapy. I don't know how things work in 1940s when it comes to therapy sessions or whatever. So maybe if you guys know, you can enlighten me on that. But how this psychiatrist's attitude towards life is addressed in this novel would, at least in my opinion, would sort of encroach the territory of violation of relationship between patient and doctor. Now, I don't want to say more about this. It isn't something that is like super serious, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I just don't feel comfortable about it. We also learn a little bit more about Agatha's history a bit later in the book, and there is something that happened to her, which sort of explains why she is the way she is. But even that one is not a lot of weight is put on that, and I wish this book could have been a little bit longer. I wish the character could have been more fleshed out. I wish the story itself could have been added with more substance instead of it just resorting to something very quick and snappy. The resolution is it has a bit of that cliffhanger or something abrupt, which something that I don't mind, but it's, you know, the meat of this book is not enough, and how the plot moves, it's not satisfying. But the nature of this book itself, you know, how sweet things could be, you know, that kind of premise, well, at least in terms of sentiment that it wants to offer, you know, I just don't really like it, especially when it comes to the subject matter. So this one, I gave it 1 out of 5 stars. And anyway, I'm gonna move on to the second book, and that is Jagua Nana by Cyprian Ekwensi. Cyprian Ekwensi was a Nigerian author. I actually have a video on this book, so I'm not going to talk more about this in this video. So you can check out that book talk video if you are interested. I have the link down below. Anyway, Jagua Nana was awesome. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, you know, and it felt good, especially after finishing a 1-star book. This one felt good. So Jagua Nana is set sometime in 1950s Nigeria, and it centers around a 40-year-old woman. I think she's around 45-year-old woman named Jagua, who works as a sex worker. And she is in a relationship with a younger man named Freddie, who wants to become a lawyer and study overseas. And their relationship is somewhat transactional. Basically, Jagua Nana wants someone who is going to provide her with some kind of stability because of, you know, she has been working as a sex worker, and so there is this kind of lack of safety and stability in her life, and so she wants that from her young boyfriend. And at the same time, the boyfriend, he wants her for sex, well, mainly for sex. He is just really in love with her, but their relationship is not particularly healthy, and so this book would pretty much explores, at the beginning it explores the relationship, but eventually it would explore how Jagua wants to navigate her life beyond that relationship, because at some point that relationship is not going to be enough in her life, you know, to sustain her, because some drama is going to happen involving some side characters, and there are going to be other women, there are going to be other men, you know, I'm not going to say much, but there will be some drama happening in this book, in which Jagua would have to start making some decisions in order to either sustain the life that she wants, or to allow her to reach a good life for herself. Now, this book, it sort of asks the questions of, you know, how to attain that good life in terms of economic capability and economic background. You know, a lot of questions about class is explored in this book, particularly in the setting of 1950s Nigeria. Many of the characters, in a way, they struggle with either trying to move up the social ladder, or trying to improve their station in life, trying to get that money, and that includes the main character Jagua. At the same time, there are also a lot of social commentary included in this book. Topics on treatment of women, treatment of poor people, basically corruption in the government, and also corruption among people in power, corruption among the police. So basically a lot of topics is covered in this book. Now, aside from that, this book also has a really gripping plot. It's really dynamic. Jagua is also a really dynamic character. She sort of evolves a lot. She I would say learn things, but at the same time she makes a lot of stupid, silly decisions. You want to root for her, but at the same time, you know, sometimes you just wince at her making the wrong mistake. But yeah, I talk more about this book in my book talk video, so yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this book for now. I really love this, so if you have the opportunity to check out this book, go for it. Now I want to move on to the last book I want to talk about in this video, and that would be Rumer Godden's The Dark Horse. So this book is set sometime in 1930s, I think, in Calcutta, India. And it centers around a horse, a racehorse, a black racehorse named Dark Invader. So initially, Dark Invader is like a winning racehorse in Britain, but then after the first race that this horse won, somehow the horse could not get that first place position again, and so the owner of the horse decides to sell off this horse, and a British man, not the British man, I'm not exactly sure if the man is British or not, but someone rich who happens to live in India with the rest of the rich British social circle in Calcutta decides to buy that horse to get that horse to compete in a race in Calcutta. Now, aside from that, aside from the horse subplot, there is also this subplot involving a struggling church that is kind of taken care of by a group of nuns. Now they are struggling to provide for the poor, but they are lacking in resources. They don't have a lot of money, they don't have means of transportation, and it just so happened that at the time they lost their horse, which is kind of like their main means of transportation at the time, and so they have something to worry about. It is around this time that the Dark Invader reaches India with its stable boy. And people are starting to like the Dark Invader because this horse is just so pretty. The crowd, the people who watches the horse race, the spectators, they're starting to like really liking this black horse. But just a few days before the race, the horse disappears. So yeah, that's kind of like basically what this book is about. It's a horse book, and it is the kind of story that you could expect some kind of coziness from. Reading this, you would probably want to get a bit of that comfort, cozy read or stuff like that. However, I was really bored by this book because even though it is fairly short, it is less than 200 pages, I actually took a long time finishing this because it was just so boring. I couldn't really figure out what was the central idea of this book. I mean, sure, the plot in which the horse disappears is, it's interesting, but this book moves very slowly. And the disappearance sort of happened like after the halfway point of this book. And so most of the beginning of this book is focused on introducing characters that are going to be in close proximity to this horse. The British people who live in India, the people who are involved in the horse race, the nuns, all these individuals. We are introduced to them, and we are introduced to what they do in their lives and stuff like that. But it just moves really slowly. I just got really bored. And for a horse story, and this is just my opinion, I don't think there's enough horse in here. Even though this book is about this horse named Dark Invader doesn't seem to make a really strong appearance in this book. It is there, significantly there, but it's the appearance is just not very strong. So I'm not comfortable with that. Now, another thing that sort of bothers me, makes me even more comfortable, is how this book is set in colonial India. And much of the important characters in this book are British people, or white people who are not native to the place where the story is set. And I think that aspect of this book really takes away a lot of that potential sense of comfort or coziness that this book could offer me. It just made me feel really uncomfortable reading a story in which people are concerning themselves about a horse, while at the same time there is a colonization going on. And a lot of the characters who are native to the place, Indian characters, they are relegated to servant roles. There is a character that sort of wields significant influence, who is sort of not connected, but have a bit of a friendly relationship with the church characters of this book as well, who is native to India. But overall, I would say it just made me feel really uncomfortable knowing that historically something like this is going on, and so it took away a lot of that enjoyment as well. From reading this book, a story that is set in India, but you don't have a lot of characters, a lot of important characters who are Indian themselves, which, granted, I would say this story does, this novel does try to raise some questions regarding, social issues such as interreligion relations, relations between different ethnicities, different cultures. I mean, obviously you have the colonizers' culture, that really stands out like sore thumb. But it's not enough for me. It's just not satisfying enough for me as a reader in 2023. But yeah, I give this one 2 out of 5 stars. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. I don't think I finished any new book at this point. So I'll see you again in a new video. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching, and bye.